Stone
You
pressed the
can't
gun
make me
against
leave.
Ren's forehead.
This is no
The
place for a
steel was
kid.
cold.
I'm not scared.
The kind of cold that crawls through your skin and settles in your bones and tells you this is how it ends. Give me one reason not to pull this trigger. Ren didn't blink. 18 years old, homeless, starving. She had nothing left to lose, and maybe that's what made her dangerous. Not strength, not weapons, just the absolute absence of fear that comes when you've already hit the bottom, and the bottom didn't kill you. Because I can fix every broken bike in your yard, all 17 of them. Laughter erupted from the hellsangels surrounding her, cruel, mocking, laughter that had buried people and slept fine afterward. 5 of them, 5 guns, 5 sets of eyes that had watched people die and slept fine afterward. Stone leaned closer. His eyes were ice, pale blue, almost white, like a wolf studying prey before deciding if it's worth the effort. And if you can't, then you bury me in the desert. Nobody will ever know. Silence fell over the compound like a blanket of concrete. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The desert wind pushed sand against the chain-link fence, and somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled at a moon that didn't care about any of them. The gun pressed harder against her skin. 48 hours, kid. Fix them all or I kill you myself. Ren's voice didn't waver, not even a little. Deal. It had started 20 minutes earlier. 5 gun barrels, 5 men ready to kill, 1 homeless girl who'd already lost everything climbing a fence she had no business climbing. You got 3 seconds to explain why you're on our fence. The voice belonged to a monster. Shaved head, neck tattoos that crawled up toward his jaw like dark vines. A scar running from his left eye to his chin, thick and white and old. They called him Boomer, and he was already counting. 1. Ren raised her hands slowly, palms open. Universal sign of surrender, except she wasn't surrendering. She was negotiating. 2. I can fix motorcycles. Boomer stopped counting, his eyes narrowed beneath that scarred brow. The other 4 men exchanged glances, but kept their weapons trained on the girl hanging from their fence like a stray cat caught in a place it shouldn't be. What did you say? That shovel head by the fire pit. The one your boss has been kicking all night. It's a 72. Carburetors flooded. Timing chain shot. I can fix it in 2 hours. Silence. Then laughter exploded from all 5 men. Belly deep and eye-watering and meaning absolutely nothing. You hear that boy's Boomer howled? Homeless kid thinks she can fix Stone's bike. 3 professional mechanics couldn't touch that thing. They wouldn't touch it. Ren said it quietly, calmly, like she was explaining something obvious to people who should already know. There's a difference. The laughter died. Boomer stepped closer. Whiskey breath, cigarette stench. The smell of a man who'd stopped caring about tomorrow a long time ago. What's that supposed to mean? Those mechanics knew who owns that bike. They knew if they failed, they had answered to the Hell's Angels. So they lied, said it was unfixable, safer that way. And you're not scared. Ren looked him dead in the eyes. Mister, I've slept under bridges for 6 months. Haven't eaten in 3 days. I got nothing. No family, no friends, no future. So no, I'm not scared of your club. I'm scared of one more night freezing with an empty stomach. That's it. Something shifted in Boomer's face. Not respect, not yet, but curiosity. A flicker behind those scarred eyes that said maybe this stray deserved a second look. Bring her to Stone. The clubhouse smelled like motor oil and old beer and decades of decisions that couldn't be taken back. Photographs on the walls, men on motorcycles, some smiling, some dead now. Trophies from runs and rallies and events that never made the newspaper for good reasons. Stone sat at the head of a long wooden table, 6'5", gray beard that reached his chest. Leather vest covered in patches that told stories Ren couldn't read but understood. President, founding member. Years of service stitched in thread on a man stitched together by stubbornness and grief. But it was his eyes that made Ren's blood freeze. Pale blue, almost white, like a winter sky with nothing behind it. The eyes of a man who'd seen too much and felt too much and decided at some point to stop feeling anything at all. So you're the fence climber. Yes, sir. You know what we do to trespassers, I can guess. Then why'd you do it? Ren forced her voice steady. Because I watched you kick that shovel head for 20 minutes, and I figured maybe you needed help more than you needed another body to bury. Stone's jaw tightened. muscle and bone shifting under weathered skin. You think I need your help? I think that bike hasn't run in years. I think you've tried to fix it yourself. Those scratch marks on the Kickstarter tell me that. Ren hesitated. She knew she was about to cross a line. She crossed it anyway. I think that bike means something to you, was something more than metal and chrome. That's why you can't let anyone touch it, but you can't fix it either. So it just sits there, broken, reminding you of whatever you lost. Dead silence. Heavy, physical, pressing against every chest in the room until eardrums rang. Even the photographs on the walls seemed to be watching. Stone stood slowly, 62 years of muscle and rage and buried grief, walking toward an 18-year-old girl who weighed 120 pounds soaking wet. He stopped inches away, close enough that Ren could see the veins in his eyes, close enough to smell the whiskey on his breath and the sorrow underneath it. What's your name, Ren Cole? Got family? No, sir. Friends? No. Anyone who'd miss you if you disappeared tonight? Ren's heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her teeth, but her voice held. Nobody. Stone stared at her for 10 long seconds. 10 seconds that felt like 10 years. Then something happened that nobody in that room expected. He smiled. You got guts, kid. Stupid guts, but guts. He turned to Boomer. Show her the yard. Stone, you can't be serious. Did I stutter? 17 broken motorcycles. Some missing wheels. Some missing engines entirely. Rust everywhere. Spreading across chrome and steel like cancer on metal, eating everything it touched, turning beauty into decay and power into junk. Boomer kicked a toolbox at Ren's feet. It skidded across the concrete and stopped against her boot. Here's your equipment. 48 hours. Every bike runs perfect or you're dead. Ren opened the box. Stripped wrenches, bent screwdrivers, half a socket set, tools that belonged in a trash can, not a garage. This is garbage. Nobody said this would be easy. Boomer grinned. Between you and me, you're already dead. You just don't know it yet. He walked away laughing. The sound echoed off the compound walls and faded into the desert night. Ren stood alone. 17 bikes, 48 hours, trash tools, and a death sentence if she failed. She grabbed the least broken wrench and started working. Hour 3. Ren's hands were already bleeding. Every bolt fought her like it had a personal grudge. Every nut was rusted solid. 10-minute jobs took an hour with the garbage tools she'd been given. She was buried inside a 65 panhead, her arms deep in the engine cavity, when footsteps approached on the gravel. Still alive, I see. Female voice. Calm, measured. The voice of someone who'd spent decades controlling rooms full of dangerous men without raising her volume once. Ren looked up. Silver-streaked hair pulled back in a tight braid. Leather vest, no weapons. A face that was beautiful once and was now something better. Strong. Lines around the eyes that told stories of laughter and loss in equal measure. She carried a plate of food and a glass of water like they were peace offerings from a world Ren had forgotten existed. I'm Mama Lou, Stone's wife. Ren. But she already knew that, I know. Whole club's talking about the crazy kid who's climbed our fence. Mama Lou set the plate down on the workbench. Figured you might be hungry. Ren stared at the food. Sandwich, chips, an apple red and perfect. Her stomach cramped so hard her vision blurred. Why help me? Who said I'm helping? Maybe I just don't like watching kids starve in my yard. Ren grabbed the sandwich and devoured it in seconds. Then the chips. Then the apple core and all seeds and stem and everything. She ate like someone who'd learned that food could disappear at any moment and probably would. Mama Lou watched with eyes that gave nothing away. How long since you ate? 3 days? Maybe 4? Where's your family? Don't have one. Everyone has family. Not me. Ren wiped her mouth with the back of her bleeding hand. Dad died when I was 12. Taught me everything about engines before cancer took him. Mom remarried. Stepdad hated me. On my 18th birthday, he handed me $20 and told me to get out. 6 months ago, 6 months, 2 weeks, 4 days. But who's counting? Mama Lou was quiet for a moment. The desert wind pushed through the garage and carried with it the smell of sage and dust and something burning far away. Why here? Why us? You know what we are? Ren picked up her wrench and turned back to the panhead. Yeah, I know exactly what you are. Outlaws. criminals, the people society throws away and forgets, just like me. But I also know something else. People like you understand survival. You don't look at a homeless kid and see garbage. You see someone who hasn't given up yet. That's a hell of a gamble. Only gamble I got left. Mama Lou stood there watching her work for a long time. The sound of the wrench against metal. The quiet grunting of a girl fighting rust and time and impossible odds. The way her small frame bent into the engine like she was trying to climb inside it. Like the machine was a shelter and the world outside it was the storm. Finally, she spoke. "You're either the smartest kid I've ever met or the dumbest, probably both." Mama Lou almost smiled. Almost. The corners of her mouth lifted, just barely, then settled back into the careful neutral she wore like armor. "Finish that panhead and then sleep 4 hours. Can't sleep. Not enough time. It's an order. Burn out and you die. Simple. I've seen men bigger than you collapse from exhaustion and never get up again. The body has limits, even the stubborn ones." She walked away into the darkness. Ren worked faster. Hour 6. Ren was adjusting the panhead's carburetor when a shadow fell across her work like a curtain closing on a stage. She looked up into a face that belonged in a nightmare. Tall, lean, cold eyes like a rattlesnake deciding whether to strike or wait. A leather vest with the word enforcer stitched beneath the club patch and thread that looked like dried blood. "You're the new toy. I'm Ren. I'm Fang. And I don't like you. Nice to meet you too." Fang grabbed Ren's collar and yanked her upright. His grip was iron. His eyes were worse. "Think you're funny? Think this is a joke? No, sir. I think this is survival. Survival." Fang laughed. The sound had no warmth in it. None at all. "You want to know what survival looks like? It looks like me putting a bullet in your skull and dumping you where nobody will ever find you. That's survival. The strong eat the weak, always." Ren didn't blink, didn't look away, didn't give him 1 inch of the fear he was fishing for. Fang shoved her hard. She stumbled backward but caught herself on the workbench. "Didn't fall, wouldn't fall. I'll be watching every move you make. One mistake, one. And I'll make sure Stone doesn't give you a second chance, understood?" Fang turned to leave, then stopped. That half-turn that predators do when they want you to know they're not done with you. "Oh, and Ren, that panhead you're working on, the timing's off by 2 degrees. He walked away. Ren checked the timing. It was perfect. Exactly where it should be. Mind games. Fang was trying to break her before the work could. Ren wouldn't let him. Hour 8. The panhead roared to life. It coughed and sputtered like an old man waking from a long sleep. Rough and reluctant, but it ran. The engine vibrated through the seat and up through Ren's body, and for a moment she felt her father's hands on hers guiding the wrench, teaching her to listen. 1 down. 16 to go. Not bad, kid. Ren turned. A young biker mid-20s stood watching from the shadows. Red hair, freckles scattered across a face that seemed too friendly for this world. Eyes that still had hope in them, which was rare in a place like this. "I'm Copper. Prospect. Been here 2 years trying to earn my patch." Ren. "But everyone already knows." Copper glanced around nervously, checking corners and doorways the way people do when they're about to say something that could get them killed. The fire pit threw orange light across his face and turned his freckles into tiny shadows. "Look, I shouldn't be talking to you. Fang's got eyes everywhere. Prospects, hang-arounds, people who owe him favors. But I wanted to warn me about what Fang's been telling everyone you're going to fail. He's got money riding on it. Big money. Been collecting bets from half the club since the moment Stone gave you the deadline." Ren's stomach tightened. "How much 5 grand says you don't make it past 36 hours? He's been waving that cash around all night like it's already won. That's why he's messing with my head. That's not all he's doing." Copper leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper that understood what being overheard would cost. "Watch your tools. Watch your work. Fang doesn't just bet on things. He makes sure he wins. Always has. I've been here 2 years, and I've never seen him lose a bet. Not once. Think about what that means." Before Ren could respond, Copper walked away, quickly disappearing into the darkness like he'd never been there at all. Ren looked at her toolbox, then at the bikes she'd already checked. Then at the darkness where Fang was certainly watching. He wasn't just betting against her. He was going to sabotage her. And there was nothing she could do about it except work faster, work smarter, and pray that faster and smarter would be enough. Hour 10. Commotion at the front gate pulled Ren away from her work. She wiped her hands on her jeans and moved toward the noise, keeping to the shadows the way 6 months on the street had taught on her. A crowd had gathered around Stone and a heavy-set man in an expensive leather jacket. Two bodyguards flanked him like bookends made of muscle and bad intentions. The man's face was wide and flat and carried a smile that never reached his eyes. I'm telling you, Stone, our territory ends at the river. Push past that and you've got problems. I'm not pushing anywhere, Rex. I'm stating facts. The river is the line. Cross it and we respond. Rex Malone. Ren had heard the name whispered in the darkness during her months on the street. Iron Serpents. The other club. The bigger club. The one that was growing while Stone's was dying. Rex laughed. The sound bounced off the compound walls. Respond with what? Half your bikes don't run. Half your members collect Social Security. You think you can threaten me? It's not a threat, it's history. 30 years of agreement. Agreements change. Not this one. The two men stared at each other, tension thick enough to cut. Two old bulls in a field that wasn't big enough for both of them, each one too stubborn to move and too proud to blink. The bodyguards shifted their weight. The Hells Angels tightened their grips. Every person in that yard knew that one wrong word, one wrong move, one wrong breath could turn this gravel into a graveyard. Rex smiled coldly, the smile of a man who knows he's holding all the cards and wants you to know it too. Fine. Have it your way, old man. But don't say I didn't warn you. He walked away with his bodyguards. The crowd dispersed slowly the way crowds do when they know something bad is coming, but don't know exactly when. Ren found Mama Lou at the edge of the group. Who was that Rex Malone? Runs the Iron Serpents? They've been pushing our territory for months. What happens if they cross the river? Mama Lou's face hardened. The softness from earlier was gone, replaced by something cold and practical and afraid. War. And right now we're not ready. Not even close. Ren looked at the broken bikes scattered across the yard like wounded soldiers waiting for a medic who might never come. Suddenly, her 48-hour deadline felt bigger than survival, bigger than one girl's life or death. These bikes weren't just machines. They were the club's teeth. Without them, the Hells Angels were just old men in leather waiting to be swallowed whole. Hour 12, 4 bikes running. Ren was deep inside a 78 Ironhead when Boomer's shadow fell across the garage floor. Stone wants you, now. Ren's stomach dropped. Why didn't ask? Let's go. Inside the clubhouse, Stone sat alone, whiskey bottle half empty on the table. The photographs on the walls watched them both with the frozen eyes of men who'd made choices they couldn't take back. Sit down. Ren sat. How many bikes? 4 running. Working on the 5th. You're fast, trying to be. Stone took a long drink. The whiskey caught the overhead light and turned it amber, the color of sunsets and regret. When you climbed that fence, I was going to have Boomer shoot you. Would have been smart. Can't have random kids walking into our compound. What changed your mind, the way you talked about my shovel head? Stone's voice dropped into a register that was almost private, like he was talking to himself, and Ren just happened to be in the room. You said it meant something more than a machine. How'd you know? Because my dad had a bike like that. 68 Electra Glide. Loved it more than anything except maybe me. When he died, my mom sold it for grocery money. Ren's voice caught on something sharp in her throat. I never forgave her for that. Stone was silent for a long time. The clock on the wall ticked. The ice in his glass shifted and cracked. That shovel head belonged to my son Jesse. The name hung in the air like smoke, like a prayer nobody answered, like the echo of a voice that used to fill this room with laughter and now only filled it with silence. He was 19. Was. That single word, past tense, the smallest word in the English language that can destroy a man completely. 2 letters that separate a living, breathing, laughing boy from a headstone and a leather vest nobody will ever wear again. Stone's hand tightened around his glass. The knuckles went white. The whiskey trembled. Iron Serpents killed him. Rex Malone's boys. 3 years ago, ambushed him on Highway 15, coming home from his girlfriend's place on a Tuesday night. Shot him 6 times. Left him bleeding on the asphalt like a dope. He was alone out there. Nobody there to hold his hand. Nobody there to tell him it would be okay. My boy died alone on a highway in the dark, and I wasn't there to save him. Stone's voice cracked on the last word. Just barely. Just enough to show that beneath all that muscle and leather and fury was a father who hadn't slept through a single night in 3 years. Ren felt cold. Not temperature cold. Something deeper. A frost that started in the center of her chest and wrapped itself around her heart and squeezed until breathing became something she had to remember to do. She knew that cold. She'd felt it standing beside her own father's hospital bed, watching the monitors slow, watching the strongest man she'd ever known become something small and fragile and then become nothing at all. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Sorry doesn't bring him back. Sorry doesn't fill the hole. Sorry is just a word people say when they don't know what else to say. And I've heard it 1,000 times, and it hasn't fixed a damn thing. Stone stood and walked to the window. Outside, the broken bikes sat in the moonlight like tombstones. Monuments to a club that died the same night his son did. I haven't touched that bike since. Can't look at it most days. Can't get rid of it either. So it just sits there, rotting. Like me. Like everything in this compound. We're all just machines that stopped running the night Jesse died. Ren chose her next words carefully. The way you choose steps in a minefield. One wrong move and everything explodes. What if I fix it? Stone turned sharply. The movement was sudden enough to make Ren flinch. What let me fix Jesse's bike? Not for the test, not for the deadline. For him. Maybe it's a way to remember him without hurting. Stone's face went through a dozen emotions in 5 seconds. Anger, grief, hope, fear. The desperate wanting of a man who's been told his whole life that wanting things only leads to losing them. You've got no idea what you're asking. I know exactly what I'm asking. I'm asking you to let me try. Long silence. The longest of Ren's life. Longer than the night her stepdad handed her $20. Longer than the first night under the bridge when she learned that darkness has a sound, and the sound is your own breathing. Tomorrow morning, before anything else, you work on Jesse's bike first. Yes, sir. And Ren? Yeah, don't you dare fail. Hour 14. Ren found Copper by the fire pit. The flames threw shadows across his freckled face and made him look older than his 25 years. I need information. Copper glanced around nervously, the way he always did. The way prospects learn to do when every senior member is a potential threat and every conversation could be their last. About what, Jesse? Stone's son. What happened? That's dangerous territory. I need to know. Copper sighed. The sound of a man who knows he's about to do something stupid and does it anyway because stupidity and loyalty sometimes look exactly the same. Jesse was the golden boy. Everyone loved him. Best rider in the club. Funny, kind, nothing like his old man. Copper's voice dropped. 3 years ago, Iron Serpents wanted to expand. Stone said no. So Rex Malone sent a message. Jesse, they ambushed him coming home from his girlfriend's place. Put 6 bullets in him. He was 19 years old. Ren felt the words land like stones dropped into still water, each one creating ripples that spread outward into everything. Whole club fell apart after that. Stone stopped riding, started drinking. Half the members left. We've been dying ever since, and nobody did anything. What could we do? We're outnumbered 3-1. Rex knows it. That's why he's pushing again. He smells blood. Ren's mind raced, pieces clicking together like engine parts, finding their proper alignment. Copper, I need you to do something for me. What, watch Fang tonight? If he goes near my bikes, you tell me immediately. Copper looks scared. He'll kill me if he finds out. He'll kill me if he sabotages my work. At least you'll still have a club to belong to. Copper stared at her for a long moment. The fire crackled between them. Somewhere in the compound, a door slammed shut. You really don't care if you die, do you? Nothing but my life, and that's been worthless for 6 months. Copper nodded slowly, the nod of a man making a decision that would change the trajectory of everything that came after. I'll watch him, hours 16 through 20. Wren worked through the night like a woman possessed by something stronger than exhaustion. Her hands were raw meat, her eyes burned from grease and sweat and the dust that Nevada pushes into everything it touches. Her body screamed for rest in a language she refused to speak. Bike 5 came alive at hour 17. Bike 6 at hour 19. She was ahead of schedule, barely. The margin between survival and death measured in minutes and millimeters. At hour 20, she stood before the shovelhead. Jesse's bike. Even covered in 3 years of dust, it was beautiful. Cherry red beneath the grime. Custom chrome work that caught the moonlight and threw it back in scattered diamonds. Every detail spoke of a young man who loved this machine the way some people love a living thing. Because to him it was. This wasn't just a motorcycle. It was a 19-year-old soul on wheels. Wren touched the gas tank. The metal was cold. I don't know if you can hear me, Jesse. Probably not. But I'm going to bring your bike back. I'm going to make it sing again. That's my promise. She started working. The carburetor was destroyed, not just clogged or misaligned. Destroyed. The kind of damage that happens when moisture gets inside and freezes and thaws and freezes again across 3 Nevada winters. Timing chain shot. Wiring corroded beyond recognition, green and brittle, crumbling to powder at the lightest touch. Gaskets cracked and crumbling like old paper left in the sun. Pistons seized so tight they might as well have been welded together by time itself. This wasn't a 2-hour job. This was a 20-hour nightmare compressed into a space where time was the enemy and exhaustion was its weapon and failure meant a bullet. Wren didn't care. She worked. She worked the way her father had taught her. Methodical, patient, one system at a time. Start with what you can see, then listen for what you can't. Every engine tells a story if you know how to read it, and Thomas Cole had taught his daughter to read engines the way some parents teach their children to read books. She stripped the carburetor down to its bones, cleaned every jet with a wire thin enough to thread through a needle's eye, rebuilt the float mechanism with parts that were corroded but not dead. Not yet. She gave them one more chance at life because she understood what that felt like. The timing chain took 3 hours. 3 hours of fighting rust and seized bolts and the absolute stubbornness of metal that hadn't moved in 36 months. She broke 2 wrenches, cut her palm open on a jagged edge, and wrapped it with a strip torn from her own shirt, and kept going because stopping was dying, and she'd decided a long time ago, under a bridge in Reno, that she wasn't ready to die. While she worked, she talked to Jesse, not out loud, in her head, the way she used to talk to her father in the months after he died. You built this bike with love. I can feel it in the welds, in the way you routed the cables. Clean, careful. You took our time. You didn't rush. She adjusted a wire connector with fingers that had lost feeling 2 hours ago. Your dad misses you, I know, because I know what missing someone looks like. It looks like a man who keeps a broken motorcycle in his yard because throwing it away would mean accepting you're really gone. She kept going, hour after hour, bolt after bolt, talking to a dead boy and listening for the answers in the metal. Hour 22. She jerked awake with a wrench still in her hand, her face pressed against the shovelhead's engine block. She'd passed out, just collapsed mid-turn like a machine that ran out of fuel. Mama Lou stood over her. You've been working 22 hours straight. You need to stop. Can't. Not yet. You're going to kill yourself. Then I'll die doing something that matters. Mama Lou grabbed her arm. Hard. Hard enough to make Wren wince. Look at yourself. Your hands are bleeding through the bandages. You're shaking. You can barely see straight. The shovelhead's almost done. 2 more hours. Maybe 3. Wren's voice cracked. She let it crack. She was too tired to pretend anymore. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about Jesse. It's about Stone. It's about giving this club something to believe in again. I can't stop now. Mama Lou stared at her. Those eyes that gave nothing away finally gave something. Something that looked like recognition. Like seeing a ghost. 2 hours. Then you sleep whether you like it or not. Yes, ma'am. She brought coffee and fresh bandages. Wrapped Wren's hands with a gentleness that made Wren's eyes sting for reasons that had nothing to do with grease or dust. Wren kept working. Hour 24. The final wire connected. Wren climbed onto the shovelhead. Her whole body was trembling. Not from cold, not from fear, from the absolute depletion of everything a human body has to give and the refusal to acknowledge it. She kicked the starter. Nothing. Her heart stopped. Actually stopped. For one terrible second, the world went silent and dark, and she was back under the bridge, alone, forgotten, invisible. She checked everything. Connections, timing, fuel flow. Everything was perfect. Everything was exactly where it should be. She kicked again. Nothing. Panic, rising like floodwater, rising fast. She closed her eyes, squeezed them shut against the tears and the terror and the impossible weight of failure. And in that darkness, she heard her father's voice, clear as the day he'd said it, clear as the last time she'd heard him speak before the cancer stole his words. Listen to the engine, sweetheart. It'll tell you what it needs. Wren listened, and she heard it. A tiny sound. Metal barely touching metal. So small you'd miss it unless you were listening with everything you had. The ignition switch. Loose. Just barely. Just enough to break the circuit. She reached in, fingers finding the problem by feel alone. Muscle memory. Her father's hands guiding hers from wherever the dead go when they refuse to leave. One adjustment. One quarter turn of a connection that nobody would have found unless they loved engines the way Thomas Cole had taught his daughter to love them. She kicked the starter. The engine exploded to life. Wren shouted, half laugh, half sob. The sound tore out of her like something that had been caged for years and finally broke free. The engine's voice was beautiful, deep, powerful. A mechanical heartbeat returning after 3 years of silence. The voice of a 19-year-old boy who'd loved this machine echoing back from wherever he'd gone. Jesus Christ. Wren turned. Stone stood at the edge of the yard. His face was white, drained of every color except shock. It runs. It actually runs. Yes, sir, just like I promised. Stone walked forward, slowly. The way a man walks towards something he's afraid might disappear if he moves too fast. His hand reached out and touched the gas tank. His fingers trembled against the cherry red metal. It sounds, his voice broke. It sounds exactly like when Jesse wrote it. I kept everything original. He loved this bike. I could feel it in every piece. I didn't want it to change what he built. Stone's eyes glistened. For a long moment, he didn't speak. Couldn't speak. The words were there, but they had to fight through 3 years of grief to reach the surface. Then he climbed onto the seat, gripped the handlebars. His knuckles went white. He revved the engine and the sound filled the compound and echoed off the walls and rose into the Nevada sky. And for the first time since Wren had met him, Stone laughed, not the cruel laugh from before, not the testing laugh of a man deciding whether to kill you. A real laugh, pure, released. The sound of a chain breaking that had been wrapped around his chest for 1,000 days. My boy. He whispered it so softly only the engine heard. My boy. Wren stepped back, her own eyes burning. She'd done it. Jesse's bike was alive, and something in Stone had come alive with it. Hour 25. Wren slept like the dead, deep and dreamless and absolute. When she woke late afternoon, sun streamed through the garage windows and painted everything in gold. Her body felt broken. Her hands throbbed with every heartbeat, but hope burned in her chest like a pilot light that refused to go out. She'd fixed the shovel head. She could do this. 10 bikes left. 23 hours remaining. She walked back to the yard and stopped cold. The FXR she'd finished the day before. The one that had been running perfectly, purring like a satisfied cat. She'd bled for that bike, spent 3 hours on it with stripped wrenches and bent screwdrivers and hands that were already hamburger by the time she finished. She'd brought it back from the dead, and it had repaid her with the most beautiful sound a mechanic can hear. The sound of an engine that works. Now it sat destroyed. Sugar in the gas tank, a death sentence for any engine. The granules would melt in the heat of combustion and coat the cylinder walls and pistons with a sticky residue that would seize every moving part within minutes. Cut brake lines severed clean with a knife, not torn, not worn, cut, deliberate and precise. Slashed tires, 3 of them carved open with something sharp and hateful. 3 separate acts of sabotage, each one requiring someone to walk into that yard in the middle of the night, to crouch beside bikes that Wren had built back from nothing with her own bleeding hands, and to destroy them, calmly, methodically, without mercy or hesitation. Wren's blood turned to ice. She ran to the next bike. The Ironhead. Fuel line sliced clean through. The Super Glide. Spark plugs smashed to powder. Three bikes. Three bikes she'd already fixed. Already bled for. Already stolen hours of her life to bring back from the dead. All destroyed. Wren's knees buckled. She caught herself on the workbench. Her hands gripped the edge until her knuckles turned white and her bandages turned red. Fang. That snake had done exactly what Copper warned. Speaking of Copper, she ran, found him behind the clubhouse, face beaten to a pulp, barely conscious, one eye swollen shut, blood dried in streaks down his chin like war paint applied by the losing side. Copper. What happened, Fang? Copper coughed. The sound was wet and wrong. Found out I was watching. Jumped me around midnight. Did you see him sabotage the bikes? Couldn't see anything. He knocked me out before I could. Copper's head dropped. Unconscious again. Wren stood there in the afternoon sun with blood on her hands that belonged to three different sources. Three bikes destroyed. A friend beaten. 23 hours left. And no proof. Her word against a club enforcer who'd been a member for years. She was dead. Unless. Wren's eyes narrowed. Something shifted inside her, something that had been forged under bridges and in alleyways and in all the cold, dark places where homeless girls learn that weakness is a luxury they cannot afford. Fang thought she was just a street kid, a nobody, an easy target to crush and forget. Fang was about to learn different. Wren walked into the clubhouse like a woman who'd already buried herself and come back from the grave. 23 hours left. Three bikes destroyed. Her only ally beaten unconscious. And Fang somewhere in this building probably laughing about how easy it had been. The main room was packed. Friday night, bikers drinking, playing cards, watching some game on a cracked TV mounted to the wall with brackets that looked like they'd been installed by someone who'd been drinking when they did it. Nobody paid attention to the homeless girl walking through, nobody except Stone. Wren. His voice cut through the noise like a blade through paper. Heard you got the shovel head running? Yes, sir. Also heard you got a problem. Wren stopped. What kind of problem? Three destroyed bikes and a prospect with the broken face. So Stone already knew. Of course he did. Nothing happened in this club without him knowing. He was a man who'd survived 30 years in a world where ignorance killed faster than bullets. I can still make the deadline. Can you, if whoever's sabotaging my work stops? Yes, Stone leaned forward. Those pale wolf eyes locked onto hers. You accusing someone? This was the moment. Wren could name Fang right now, call him out in front of everyone. But she had no proof, just Copper's word. And Copper was unconscious. If she accused the club's enforcer without evidence, she'd be dead before sunrise. No, sir, I'm not accusing anyone. I'm just stating facts. Someone destroyed my work. I'm going to fix it anyway. Stone studied her for a long moment. The way you study a chess piece that just made a move you didn't expect. You've got 23 hours. I know. Then why are you standing here talking to me? Wren turned and walked toward the door. She was almost through it when Stone's voice caught her. Wren. She stopped. Whoever's messing with you, they're testing you, seeing what you're made of. Don't let them win. Wren nodded once and kept walking. Outside, the night air hit her like a slap. Cold, sharp. It cleared her head the way only desert air can, stripping away everything that isn't essential until you're left with nothing but the truth of what needs to happen next. 3 bikes destroyed, 15 hours of work minimum to redo them, plus 10 untouched bikes, 23 hours. It was impossible. Wren smiled, grimly, the smile of a girl who'd been told impossible her whole life and had stopped believing in the word. Good thing she specialized in impossible. She walked to the first destroyed bike and started assessing the damage. Sugar in the gas tank meant draining and cleaning the entire fuel system. Cut brake lines meant finding replacements. Slashed tires meant scavenging from wreck bikes nobody had touched in years. You're not going to make it. Wren didn't turn around. She recognized that voice the way you recognize the sound of a rattlesnake before you see it. Watch me. Footsteps. Fangs circled into view, arms crossed. That reptile smile stretched across his face like something painted on a mask. 3 bikes, 15 hours of work minimum, plus the other 10 you haven't touched. And you've got what, 23 hours? 22 now, 22 hours and 47 minutes. But who's counting? Fang laughed. I like you, kid. Got spirit. Too bad spirit doesn't fix motorcycles. Neither does sabotage. The smile froze on Fang's face. Ice forming on a lake. What did you say? You heard me. Fang stepped closer. His hand moved toward the knife on his belt. Slow, deliberate, the gesture of a man who wants you to see the threat coming. You want to be real careful right now, girl. Real careful. Or what? You'll destroy more of my work, beat up another prospect. What's next? You going to kill me in my sleep? Maybe. Then do it. Ren stood up, faced him, looked directly into those rattlesnake eyes and didn't blink. Go ahead, kill me right now. Pull that knife and end it. Fang's eyes narrowed. He hadn't expected this. Threats were supposed to create fear. Fear was supposed to create submission. That was how the world worked. That was how it had always worked. But here was this girl, this 18-year-old homeless girl with the blood on her bandages and grease on her face and a hollow place inside her where fear used to live before the streets burned it out. And she wasn't afraid. But here's the thing. Ren's voice was steady, calm, the way her father's voice had been calm when he explained how engines worked. Patient, precise, unstoppable. If you kill me, you'll have to explain to Stone why the kid who fixed his son's bike is suddenly dead. The same kid Stone personally gave 48 hours to. You think Stone won't ask questions? You think he won't figure it out? Fang's jaw tightened. And if you sabotage any more of my work? Same problem. Stone's watching now. He already knows something's wrong. How long before he connects the dots? You don't know anything. I know you bet 5 grand that I'd fail. I know you've been undermining me from the start. And I know you're scared. Scared, Fang laughed, but the sound was hollow, a bell with a crack in it. Of what a homeless kid's scared of what happens if I succeed. Because if I fix these bikes, all of them, it proves you've been useless. 3 years of telling everyone the shovelhead was unfixable, and some street kid does it in one night. That's embarrassing. That's the kind of thing people don't forget. Fang's hand gripped the knife handle, white knuckles, tendons standing out like bridge cables. Go ahead, Ren said it quietly. Kill me, prove me right. For 10 seconds, the world balanced on the edge of that knife. Literally, the desert held its breath. The stars froze in their slow rotation, and Ren stood perfectly still, watching Fang's white knuckles decide whether she lived or died. Then Fang released the handle. You're dead anyway, kid. The clock's ticking. And I'm going to enjoy watching you fail. He walked away into the darkness. Ren let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was trying to escape through her rib cage. But she'd done it. She'd bought herself time. Now she had to use it. The compound was quiet when Rex Malone's motorcycles returned. Not the peaceful quiet of sleep, the tense quiet of prey, hearing a predator approach. 20 bikes, maybe 30. Headlights cutting through the darkness like searchlights, sweeping a prison yard. The rumble of engines shook the ground and rattled the windows and made every man in the compound reach for something sharp or heavy. Stone was already at the gates, flanked by a dozen Hell's Angels. Not enough. Not nearly enough. Rex killed his engine and climbed off his bike. His boys spread out behind him like an army assembling for a war nobody had officially declared. Evening, Stone. Rex, you're on the wrong side of the river. Rivers change course. Didn't you know that? What do you want? Rex smiled. That cold, reptile smile that lived somewhere between confidence and cruelty. I want what's mine. This territory. Your club. Everything you've built. It's time for the old guard to step aside. And if we don't, then we take it by force. Tonight, the tension was suffocating. Ren watched from the shadows. Every Hell's Angel had a hand near a weapon. Every iron serpent was ready for blood. 2 armies separated by 20 feet of gravel and 30 years of hatred. Stone didn't blink. You want a war? You'll get one, but you better be ready to lose some boys. Because we don't go down easy. You're outnumbered 3-1. Numbers don't mean everything. No. Then what does? Stone smiled grimly. Heart, will, and nothing left to lose. Rex laughed, that wide, flat face creasing with something that wasn't humor. Heart, your club is dying stone. Your son is dead. Your bikes don't run. Your members are old men playing pretend. What heart? What will? You've got nothing. Then you've got nothing to worry about. Leave us alone and wait for us to die. Why force the issue? Rex's smile faded, like a light being switched off. Because I'm tired of waiting. You've got 24 hours to surrender this compound. After that, we come in force, and everyone dies. He climbed back on his bike. 24 hours stone. Think about it. The iron serpents roared away into the night. The sound faded slowly, the way thunder fades after lightning. You know the storm isn't over. You just don't know when the next bolt will fall. Stone stood perfectly still, watching the taillights disappear into the darkness like red eyes closing. Then he turned and walked back inside without a word. Ren found Mama Lou in the dispersing crowd. What happens now? Mama Lou's face was pale in the moonlight. Now we prepare for war. Can you win? Mama Lou didn't answer. She just looked at the broken bikes in the yard. The bikes that couldn't run. The bikes that left the club toothless and exposed and vulnerable to everything Rex Malone wanted to take from them. That silence was answer enough. Ren walked back to the garage. 23 hours left. 13 bikes to go. But now the stakes had changed, shifted like tectonic plates beneath her feet, turning personal survival into something larger and heavier and infinitely more terrifying. Now it wasn't just about her. It was about Stone, who'd just heard his dead son's engine sing for the first time in 3 years. About Mama Lou, who'd fed a stranger because kindness was the only weapon she had left. About Copper, beaten bloody because he dared to help a girl nobody else would look at twice. About Boomer and the other members, old men in leather, who'd been waiting to dish and mining and might not have to if somebody could give them a reason to fight. Every bike she fixed was a weapon. Every engine she brought back to life was a fighter added to the line. Every turn of her wrench was a vote against extinction. She picked up her wrench. Her bloody, bandaged, broken hands gripped the metal. The cold bit into her palm where the cut hadn't stopped bleeding. She tasted iron in the back of her throat, and she didn't know if it was blood from her bitten lip or the metallic taste of fear. She started working again. 13 bikes, 23 hours, one girl against time and sabotage and impossible odds, and a man with a knife who wanted her dead, and an army across the river that wanted everyone dead. Ren Cole had been invisible for 6 months. She'd walk streets where people looked through her like she was made of glass. She'd stood on corners where 1,000 faces passed and not one of them stopped. Not one of them asked her name or where she'd sleep that night or if she was hungry. She'd learned that the worst kind of violence isn't a fist or a gun. It's indifference. It's walking past someone who is drowning and pretending the water isn't there. Nobody had seen her. Nobody had stopped. Nobody had cared. Tonight, the whole world was going to see what invisible looks like when it refuses to stay invisible anymore. Ren worked through the night the way fire works through a forest. Relentless, consuming, turning everything it touched into fuel for the next hour, the next bolt, the next impossible repair. Her hands had stopped being hands somewhere around hour 28. They were just things at the ends of her arms now. Swollen red things wrapped in bandages, soaked through with blood and grease, and the particular kind of dirt that lives inside engines and never comes out no matter how hard you scrub. She couldn't feel her fingers anymore. Just constant, throbbing pain that kept rhythm with her heartbeat like a drum counting down to something she didn't want to think about. The FXR first. Drain the tank. Every drop of contaminated fuel pulled out with a hand pump that took 50 strokes per gallon, and each stroke sent lightning bolts of pain from her palms to her shoulders. Flush the fuel lines with solvent she found in the back of the garage behind cans of paint that had been there so long the labels had faded to nothing. Clean the carburetor, piece by piece, jet by jet, rebuilding what Sugar and Spite had tried to destroy. Replace the brake lines with spares she found buried in a box beneath the workbench. The tires were harder. She had to scavenge from a wreck bike nobody had touched in years, wrestling rubber off rusted rims with a tire iron that bent twice before she was done. Hour 20. The FXR roared back to life. 1 down, 12 to go. The iron head next. Fuel line repair. Easier than the FXR, but still 2 hours of work that should have taken 30 minutes if she'd had proper tools and hands that could grip without shaking. Hour 19, running. The Superglide. Spark plug replacement. Had to jury-rig a solution with plugs that didn't quite fit, filing down the electrodes by hand until the gap was close enough to fire. Ugly work. Work that would make a proper mechanic wince. But ugly work that runs beats beautiful work that doesn't. Hour 18. Running. Ren sat on the concrete floor, her back against the Superglide's front tire. Her eyes closed, just for a moment, just long enough to remember what it felt like not to hurt. Mama Lou appeared with coffee and food, 2 sandwiches this time, a bottle of water, an orange bright as a small sun. You need to rest. Can't. Ren. There was something new in Mama Lou's voice, something that sounded like the voice Ren's mother used to use before she remarried. Before everything changed, before kindness became something that happened to other people. I said I can't. Ren didn't look up from the engine. Resting is dying. I stop now, I don't start again. My body will shut down and it won't turn back on. Not in time. Mama Lou stood there watching her. The desert wind pushed through the open garage door and carried with it the smell of sage and cold sand and morning coming too fast. You remind me of someone. Who, Jessie? Ren's hand stopped moving. Her breath caught on the name like fabric on a nail. Stone's son. He had the same look you do, same fire behind the eyes, same stubbornness that borders on stupidity. He'd work on these bikes until his hands bled. Just like you. Wouldn't stop until the job was done or someone physically carried him away from the workbench. I had to drag that boy to dinner more times than I can count. What was he like? Mama Lou was quiet for a moment, choosing which memories to share and which to keep locked in the vault where the precious things live. Kind, funny, nothing like his father, really. Stone is all hard edges and anger, always has been. It's how he survived. But Jessie was soft, gentle in a way that shouldn't have been possible in a place like this. Used to rescue stray cats, if you can believe it. A biker's son who rescued strays. He'd bring them home in his jacket and name them after motorcycle parts. Had one called Gasket, another called Sprocket. Mama Lou's voice caught on something sharp and old. The club used to tease him about it. But nobody really minded, it was just who he was. Sounds like a good kid. He was the best of us. Her voice was barely a whisper now. When he died, part of Stone died too. Part of all of us, really. This club used to be something. Family, brotherhood, a place where broken people could belong. Now it's just a bunch of old men waiting to die, going through the motions, pretending there's a reason to get up in the morning when everybody knows there isn't. Ren finally looked up. Her eyes were red from exhaustion and grease, and something else, something deeper. Maybe it doesn't have to be. What do you mean maybe this club just needs a reason to live again, something to fight for, something worth bleeding for? Not a war, not revenge, just a reason to believe that tomorrow matters. Mama Lou studied her with those unreadable eyes, eyes that had seen 30 years of this world and still managed to carry tenderness inside them, like a lantern behind thick glass. You're not just fixing bikes, are you? I'm fixing whatever needs fixing. Bikes, people, doesn't matter, it's all the same work. Find what's broken, figure out why, make it run again. Mama Lou almost smiled, almost, the way sunrise almost happens in the moments before it actually does. Eat something, please, for me. Ren took the sandwich and kept working. Hour 15, 7 bikes running, 6 to go. Ren was elbow deep in a 77 lowrider when she heard footsteps. Multiple footsteps. Heavy boots on gravel moving in formation the way soldiers move. The way men move when they've made a decision together and are coming to announce it. She looked up. Boomer stood at the edge of the garage with 4 other bikers. Big men, arms crossed over barrel chests, faces carved from decades of sun and wind and fists. Unreadable in the way that old bikers' faces are unreadable because they've learned that showing emotion is the same as showing weakness. Got a minute? Ren's stomach tightened. Not really. Make a minute. This was it. Fang had sent his boys to finish the job. Ren looked around for a weapon. Wrench, crowbar, anything. Her hand closed around a socket wrench, the heaviest tool within reach. Not much against 5 armed men, but dying with a weapon in your hand felt better than dying with empty ones. Boomer walked closer, and he saw the wrench in her grip, and something crossed his face that might have been a smile. "Relax, kid. We're not here to hurt you." "Then what do you want?" Boomer exchanged glances with the other men. A silent conversation passed between them. Decades of shared history compressed into a single look. "We want to help." Ren blinked. The wrench stayed in her hand. "What you heard me. We want to help you finish these bikes." Why? Boomer sighed. He pulled up a stool and sat down heavily. The metal creaked under his weight. He ran a hand across his shaved head, and when his fingers crossed the scar on his face, he didn't flinch. He'd stopped flinching at that scar a long time ago. "Because I knew Jesse. We all did. He was like a little brother to everyone in this club. Funny, kind, would give you the shirt off his back in a blizzard and then ask if you were warm enough when he died." Boomer's voice trailed off into something that sounded like gravel shifting at the bottom of a dry river. "When he died, we stopped caring about the bikes, about the club, about everything. What was the point? The best of us was gone. The future we'd been counting on was buried in a box. So we let everything rust. The bikes, ourselves, our whole damn lives. And now you come along." Boomer looked at her with eyes that were red at the edges. "Some homeless kid who climbs our fence and tells Stone she can fix the unfixable. And then you actually do it. You bring Jesse's bike back to life. I heard that engine today. First time in 3 years, and I remembered what it used to feel like, being part of something that mattered. Riding with my brothers, having a reason to wake up." Ren didn't know what to say, so she didn't say anything. Sometimes silence is the only honest response. "We've been watching you work," Boomer continued. "Watching you bleed for bikes that aren't even yours. Watching you refuse to quit even when everything goes wrong. Even when Fang destroys your work and beats your friend and tries every dirty trick he knows to break you." And we started thinking, maybe we've been wrong. Maybe giving up was the mistake. Maybe dying slow is worse than fighting hard. He stood up. The stool scraped against the concrete. "So we want to help, if you'll let us." Ren looked at the 5 men standing before her. 24 hours ago, they'd wanted her dead. One of them had kicked a toolbox at her feet and told her she was already a corpse. Now they were offering to save her life, to save their own lives, to remember who they used to be. "I don't know if Stone would approve." "Stone's the one who sent us." Ren's jaw dropped. "What?" "He's watching, kid. He's always watching." Boomer's voice softened. "And he sees what you're doing. Not just the bikes, everything, the way you stood up to Fang, the way you kept going when anyone else would have quit, the way you talked to Jesse's bike like he could hear you. He sees it. We all do." One of the other bikers stepped forward. Older guy, gray threading through his beard like silver wire. Tattoos covering both arms from wrist to shoulder, faded and blurred by years of sun and sweat and living. He held out a toolbox. "Use these. They're mine. Kept them sharp for 40 years. Ren opened the box. Inside were the most beautiful tools she'd ever seen. Snap-on wrenches, perfectly maintained sockets, chrome gleaming like jewelry under the garage lights. Worth thousands of dollars. Tools her father used to talk about the way other men talked about women or whiskey. "I can't take these." "You're not taking them. You're borrowing them. Bring Jesse's legacy back to this club and we'll call it even." Ren nodded. Her throat was too tight to speak. She closed the box and set it on the workbench beside her, borrowed wrenches and bent screwdrivers and half a socket set that had been her only weapons for 30 hours. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You've still got 12 hours and 5 bikes." Boomer cracked his knuckles. "But this time you're not alone. Boys, let's get to work." Ren assigned each man a bike. She didn't ask. She told. Pointed at Boomer, pointed at the lowrider, pointed at the next 2, pointed at the 80 Sturgis that had been sitting so long the seat had rotted through and mice had made a home in the air cleaner. The remaining pair got the 79 Fat Bob, whose engine was more rust than metal and more prayer than engineering. They followed her directions without question. 5 men who'd been patch members before she was born, taking orders from an 18-year-old girl who weighed less than most of their toolboxes. Something had shifted. Not because Ren demanded authority, because she'd earned it. Bolt by bolt, bike by bike, hour by bleeding hour. Ren focused on the hardest remaining bike, an 83 FXRT that hadn't run in 5 years. Multiple engine problems, electrical issues that turned the wiring harness into a puzzle with missing pieces and no picture on the box. Corroded connectors, a cracked distributor cap. Most mechanics would call it hopeless and walk away without looking back. Ren didn't believe in hopeless anymore. She'd buried that word under a bridge in Reno 6 months ago, and it hadn't come back since. The hours blurred together after that, a symphony of wrenches and cursing and engines coughing back to life one by one, like patients in a hospital ward waking from comas. Bike 13 at hour 10, bike 14 at hour 9. 15 came fast, the men working in a rhythm, now feeding off each other's energy, the way engines feed off fuel. Then Mama Lou appeared at the garage door. Not with food this time, not with coffee. Her face was different, stripped of its careful neutrality. What remained was the expression of a woman who'd found something dangerous and knew the cost of silence. Ren, I need a word. Alone? The other men kept working. Mama Lou led Ren behind the building out of earshot into the thin strip of shadow between the garage wall and the chain-link fence where the desert wind pushed sand against their boots. You need to know something about Fang. Ren stopped breathing. During the standoff last night, when Rex Malone was at the gates, everyone was watching the front. Every eye in this compound pointed at those serpent headlights. But I wasn't watching the front. I was watching the back. What, because I've been suspicious for a while. Small things, unexplained absences, phone calls at strange hours. The way Fang disappears for an hour and comes back smelling like cigarettes he doesn't smoke. I didn't have proof until last night. What happened while everyone was watching Rex Fang slipped away through the side door, out to the back fence. I followed him. He met someone in the shadows. Someone who'd come on foot from the other side. Papers changed hands. Money changed hands. I couldn't see the face, but I saw the jacket. Iron serpent colors. Ren's blood went cold, ice forming in her veins, spreading outward from her chest until her whole body felt like something frozen and brittle. He's a traitor. He's been selling us out. Probably for months, maybe longer, telling Rex everything. Our numbers, our weaknesses, which bikes run and which don't, where we sleep, where we keep our weapons. Everything Rex would need to destroy us without breaking a sweat. Does Stone know I'm telling you first? Why me? Mama Lou looked at her steadily. The look of a woman who'd weighed her options and made her choice and was trusting someone she'd known for less than 2 days with the future of everything she loved. Because you're the only one who stood up to Fang. The only one who looked into those snake eyes and didn't back down. And because when this comes out, Fang is going to be dangerous. Cornered, desperate. Ren's mind was spinning, pieces clicking together with terrible precision. If Fang had been Rex's spy for months, maybe years, then 3 years ago when Jesse rode his motorcycle down Highway 15 and met 6 bullets from men who knew exactly where he'd be and exactly when he'd be there. Someone had told them. Someone inside this club. Mama Lou saw the realization in her eyes. She nodded slowly. I've been thinking the same thing. When do we tell Stone after the last bike? Mama Lou's voice was steel beneath silk. One crisis at a time. Finish the bikes. Give this club its teeth back. Then we burn the traitor down. Ren grabbed her wrench. Her hands were shaking. Not from exhaustion this time. From fury. From the image of a 19-year-old boy riding home to his family and never arriving because someone in his own house had sold the route to his killers. She walked back to the garage. Boomer looked up from the lowrider. Everything okay? Fine, 2 bikes left. Let's finish this. The last bike was a nightmare. An 84 Softail with more problems than Ren could count. Cracked cylinder, seized pistons, corroded everything. It had been used as a parts bike for years, cannibalized to keep other machines alive. A donor that had given everything and been left with nothing. Ren knew that feeling. There's no engine, Copper said, staring at the wreck. Half the parts are missing. Find me one. Where are the wrecked bikes in the back? The ones everyone forgot about. There has to be something. Copper ran off, came back 10 minutes later dragging a rusted engine block behind him like a dead animal. Found this in an old Dina, been sitting 15 years. Ren examined it, corroded, damaged, barely functional. A lesser mechanic would have laughed. Ren saw possibility where others saw scrap. It'll work. How do you know? Because it has to. They rebuilt that engine from scratch. 6 hours of work that should have taken 60. Ren's hands moved on pure muscle memory now. Her conscious mind had checked out somewhere around hour 40. What was left was instinct. The mechanical knowledge her father had planted in her like seeds that had been growing in darkness for 6 years and were finally breaking through the soil into light. Hour 47, minute 32. The soft tail sat before her. Frankenstein's monster made of motorcycle parts, built from scrap, powered by desperation, held together by willpower and prayer, and the hands of a girl who refused to let the impossible win. She climbed onto the seat, gripped the handlebars, kicked the starter, cough, sputter, die. Her heart cracked. Not now, not after everything. She adjusted the carburetor, checked the fuel flow, kicked again, cough, sputter, nothing. Come on, she whispered it, begged it. Come on. Please, she closed her eyes. And this time it wasn't her father's voice she heard. It was his hands she felt. Ghost hands, memory hands, covering hers on the wrench when she was 12 and couldn't get the turquoise right on a head bolt. Steady, sweetheart, his palms rough and warm over her small knuckles. Don't fight the machine. Move with it. Every broken thing wants to live again. You just have to show it how. Her hands stopped shaking. She opened her eyes, looked at the engine, really looked at it, not with frustration, with patience, with the same love her father had shown every rusted, forgotten, given up on machine that had ever rolled into his garage. There, the grounding wire, loose by a fraction. She tightened it with her fingers. No wrench needed, just touch, just knowing. She kicked the starter one last time. The engine roared to life. Ren collapsed over the bars, laughing and crying at the same time. The sounds mixing together until they were the same thing. 17 bikes, 48 hours, done. She'd actually done it. Copper was shouting, running toward the clubhouse. Footsteps coming back. Many of them. All of them. Stone stood at the entrance, flanked by the entire club. Mama Lou beside him. Boomer. Everyone. They stared at the running bike. At Ren barely conscious on the seat draped over the handlebars like a flag that refused to come down. 47 hours and 32 minutes. Stone's voice was thick enough to pour. You finished with 28 minutes to spare. Ren tried to respond but couldn't form words. Her mouth moved but nothing came out. She'd given everything. Every calorie, every ounce of strength, every drop of will. There was nothing left. Stone reached out and steadied her, his big hands gentle on her shoulders. You did it, kid. You actually did it. The club erupted in cheers, but they died fast, because Ren was already looking at Stone with something urgent in her eyes, something that told him the celebration was premature. Stone, we need to talk. Right now, you, me, and Mama Lou. They sat in the back room, door closed. Mama Lou laid it out. Wire transfers, bank records. She'd been building this case quietly, carefully, the way a woman builds a trap when she knows the prey is dangerous and the margin for error is zero. Stone listened without moving. His face changed the way stone changes when water freezes inside its cracks. Slowly, inevitably. Something breaking beneath the surface that would never heal the same way again. Bring him. They dragged Fang into the room. 2 bikers held his arms. His eyes swept the crowd, and what he saw there made his face go white. He knew. The moment he saw their faces, he knew. Stone stood, held up the papers. Wire transfers from Rex Malone's accounts to yours. 3 months of payments. Regular as clockwork. Stone, I can explain. Explain what? How you've been selling us out. How you told Rex exactly when to push, exactly where we were weak. How you've been helping him destroy this club from the inside. I did it for us. Can't you see? We can't win against the serpents. We're old. We're tired. We're dying. Rex offered a way out. Join them. Merge the clubs. Survive. Survive as what? Their dogs, their servants, alive. We'd be alive. Stone's face was granite. Cold. Hard. Unyielding. A mountain that had been standing since before anyone alive was born. You killed Jesse. Fang's eyes went wide, the whites showing all around. What number, Stone? I swear. The ambush, the route. Rex knew exactly where Jesse would be that night, exactly which road, exactly what time someone told him. Someone inside this club, someone Jesse trusted. Stone leaned down until his face was inches from Fang's. His voice dropped to something barely above a whisper, something worse than shouting because it was controlled, and control is what separates anger from execution. It was you, wasn't it? Stone, please, don't lie to me. The roar shook the walls. Bottles rattled on the bar. A photograph fell from its nail and shattered on the floor. Fang broke. Not slowly. All at once. Everything held back for 3 years flooding forward in a wave that destroyed everything in its path. I didn't know they would kill him. They said they'd just swallow him, send a message. Rough him up, maybe. Make Stone reconsider. I didn't know they'd shoot him. I swear on my life I didn't know. You swear on your life. Stone's voice was quiet again. Deadly quiet. Your life is worth nothing. My son's life was worth everything, and you traded it for money. Stone's fist connected with Fang's jaw. The sound was wet and sharp. A sound that doesn't exist in movies, because movies can't capture what grief sounds like when it's wearing knuckles. Then again, and again. Finally, Boomer pulled Stone back, both arms wrapped around the older man's chest. Stone, that's enough. Stone, stop. Stone was breathing hard. His knuckles were split open. Fang lay on the floor, barely conscious, his face a ruin of blood and swelling. Get him out of my sight. Stone's voice was a destroyed thing. Lock him up. We'll deal with him after we deal with Rex. Two bikers dragged Fang away, a trail of blood on the floor behind him. Stone turned and saw Ren standing in the doorway. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. A grieving father and a homeless girl. Two people who understood loss in ways that couldn't be spoken. He helped kill my boy. 3 years I've been mourning Jesse, and the man responsible was eating at my table, sleeping in my clubhouse, calling me brother. Ren didn't know what to say. Some moments are too big for words. All she could do was stand there and let him know she was standing there. You were right about that shovelhead. Stone continued, his voice steadied. Not healed, just steadied. It meant something more than a machine. And when you fixed it, you gave me back a piece of my son. I'm sorry about Jesse. Don't be sorry. Be ready. Stone's eyes hardened. The grief was still there. It would always be there. But something else was rising beside it. Something that looked like purpose. Rex is coming. And thanks to Fang, he knows everything about us. Our numbers, our weapons, our weaknesses. Everything except one thing. What's that we've got 17 bikes that run and a girl who doesn't know how to quit? The rumble came an hour later. Engines, lots of them. The sound was different from the Harleys in the compound. Smoother, more aggressive. Machines maintained by money and malice in equal measure. Boomer's head snapped up. That's not us. They ran outside. Headlights, 20 motorcycles, maybe 30. Pulling up to the compound gates in a formation that looked like a fist closing. At the front of the pack, Rex Malone. Stone was already there, flanked by a dozen hellsangels. Rex killed his engine. His boys spread out behind him like a wall of leather and chrome and hostile intent. Well, Stone, still standing. Rex's voice was casual, almost bored, the voice of a man who'd already decided how this ended. I half expected to find you on your knees begging. The only one begging tonight will be you, when I'm done with you. Rex smiled, that wide, flat face creasing with something that wasn't humor. Big talk from a man whose own enforcer was working for me. How are those broken bikes treating you? Stone didn't blink. Why don't you come inside and find out? Rex's smile faltered. Just slightly, a crack in the mask. Here's how this works, old man. You surrender the compound, sign over the territory, walk away, and nobody has to bleed tonight. Ren watched from behind a row of bikes. Her mind was racing at a speed that made the engines she'd been fixing seem slow. 30 against 12. Even with the bikes running, the numbers were suicide. Unless they didn't play by the numbers. She pushed through the crowd, every head turned. She walked up to Stone and spoke quietly enough that only he could hear. Don't fight him here. Not on his terms. Let me explain later. Just buy us until dawn. Stone listened. The fact that he listened was itself a miracle. 62 years old, 30 years running this club. and he listened to an 18-year-old girl who'd been here less than 2 days. Come back at dawn, Rex. You'll have your answer then. Rex's eyes narrowed. He studied Stone's face for something that would tell him this was weakness. Found nothing. Dawn. Not 1 minute later, he climbed back on his bike. His army followed. The engines faded into the night. Inside the clubhouse, Wren stood before the war council. Stone, Mama Lou, Boomer, every senior member with a seat at the table, Talkstone said. Rex expects us to defend. That's what he's planned for. 30 men against a fortified position. He's got the numbers. We've got the walls. Standard siege. So we don't give him what he expects. We hit them first, tonight, before dawn, before they're organized, Boomer laughed. With 18 guys with 18 bikes, every one of them running perfect. We ride in fast, hit hard, and disappear before they can organize. Guerrilla warfare. Make them chase us, spread them out, strip away their numbers advantage. That's insane. Is it Rex thinks we're weak, old, finished? He thinks we're going to hide behind these walls and wait for death. What if we proved him wrong? What if we rode out there and showed the iron serpents that the Hell's Angels still have teeth? We could all die. We could die here too. At least out there we go down fighting. On our bikes. Like riders. Like the club Jesse believed in. The room went quiet. Wren had said the one name that could silence every man in it. Stone looked at her for a long time. Then he turned to the others. What do you think Boomer was the first to speak? Defending is dying slow. At least this way we take some of them with us. One by one the others nodded, not eagerly, not with false bravery, with the quiet certainty of men who'd looked at death and decided they'd rather meet it on their feet than on their knees. Stone looked at Wren. You know, for a homeless kid who climbed our fence 2 days ago, you've got some nerve telling us how to run a war. I'm not telling you anything, I'm just suggesting. Stone smiled, actually smiled, the second real smile she'd seen from him. Jesse's vest suits you, he said it quietly, then louder to the club. Tonight we ride. The sun was setting when 18 motorcycles lined up at the compound gates, orange and red and purple, streaking across the Nevada sky like someone had taken a knife to the horizon and everything beautiful was bleeding out. Wren sat on Jesse's shovel head. Stone had insisted. The kid who brought the bike back to life should ride it into battle. The engine hummed beneath her, strong, steady, the heartbeat of a 19-year-old boy who'd never gotten to grow old. Wren's hands were still bandaged. Her body was still broken. She'd slept 6 hours in the last 48 and eaten 4 sandwiches and an orange and drunk enough coffee to fuel a truck. But something burned in her chest that made the pain irrelevant. For the first time in 6 months, she belonged somewhere. She had brothers who would ride into the dark beside her. She had something worth fighting for. Stone pulled up beside her on a massive Road King. You ever been in a fight? Wren Street fights? Nothing like this. It's different when guns are involved. Everything moves faster, louder. Your body's going to want to freeze. Don't let it. Any other advice? Stone looked at her steadily. Stay close to me. Do what I do. And if things go sideways, you run. Understand, you don't die for this club. Not tonight. What about you? I've been dying for 3 years. Tonight I finally get to live again. Stone revved his engine. The Road King roared. Let's ride! The gates opened. 18 bikes roared into the Nevada night. Wren had never felt anything like it. The wind tearing at her clothes. The speed turning the desert into a blur of shadow and starlight. The thunder of 17 engines surrounding her like a wall of sound that nothing could penetrate. The vibration of Jesse's shovelhead beneath her, that cherry-red machine, humming with the memory of a boy who'd loved it enough to build it with his own hands. She understood now why people rode. It wasn't about speed. It wasn't about rebellion or danger or the image that movies sell. It was about this. Being alive. Being part of something that moves together and breathes together and roars together into the darkness without knowing what's waiting on the other side and not caring. Because whatever it was, they'd face it together. This was what the Hell's Angels were meant to be. Not old men waiting to die, warriors, family. A force of nature mounted on chrome and steel, and the stubborn refusal to surrender. Boomer pulled up on Wren's right, his massive frame hunched over his handlebars like a bear on a bicycle that somehow looked exactly right. You ready for this? Numb good answer. Anyone who says they're ready is lying. Boomer grinned beneath his helmet. Stick with us. We'll get through this. And if we don't, we go down together. That's what brothers do. Brothers. Wren had never had a brother before. Tonight she had 17. The Iron Serpent compound was 30 miles east. An old warehouse district converted into a fortress of concrete and corrugated metal and bad intentions. The Hells Angels hit the outer guards before they knew what was happening. 3 men standing at the warehouse entrance with cigarettes in their hands and laughter in their throats. They looked up just in time to see 18 headlights bearing down on them. The first wave scattered them. The second wave drove deeper. Chaos everywhere. Serpents scrambling from buildings half-dressed, grabbing weapons, stumbling into a fight they hadn't expected for 6 more hours. Wren stuck close to Stone. The older man rode with terrifying precision. His Road King was an extension of his body. Every turn calculated, every move deliberate. A serpent stepped into their path with a shotgun. Stone didn't slow down. At the last second, he yanked his bike sideways, the rear wheel, sweeping the man's legs. The shotgun discharged into the air as the serpent crashed to the ground. "Keep moving," Stone shouted over the chaos. "Don't stop for anything." They rounded a corner and came face to face with Rex Malone. He was standing in front of the main warehouse surrounded by a dozen armed men, his face twisted with rage. Stone killed his engine. The sudden silence was louder than the gunfire had been. "You and me, Rex, we need to talk." "Talk," Rex laughed. Wild, unhinged. "You attack my compound and you want to talk. I want to end this. One way or another." Rex's eyes swept the chaos around them. His men were scattered, disorganized. The Hells Angels had hit hard and fast, just like Wren planned. 30 men were worthless in 30 different places. Stone's voice cut through the night. "I know what you did to my son. I know Fang was your spy. I know you paid him to give up Jesse's route that night. I know you ordered the hit." The color drained from Rex's face, slowly, like watching a tide go out. "Did you think I'd never find out that was business? That was my son." Stone's roar echoed across the compound. For a moment, everything stopped. The fighting, the shouting, even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Rex's hand moved toward his gun. Slowly. "I wouldn't." Stone's voice was quiet again. "Look around you, Rex. Your men are scattered. Mine are right here." Rex looked. He saw Boomer and 4 other Hells Angels with weapons trained on him. He saw his own men too far away to help. For the first time in his life, Rex Malone was outnumbered where it mattered. "What do you want? I want you to leave. Tonight. Take your men and go. Find some other territory to poison. Nevada belongs to us. It always has. And if I refuse, then we finish this the old way. You and me. Right here. Right now." Rex stared at him. 20 long seconds. The longest of Wren's life, standing in the shadows with Jessie's shovel head rumbling between her legs and her heart beating so hard she could feel it in her bandaged hands. "Fine. You want Nevada? Take it. This worthless desert isn't worth dying for." Rex climbed onto his bike. His face was a mask of hatred, calculated, patient. A face that would remember this night for years. "This isn't over, Stone. Not by a long shot. Get out." Rex glared at him for one more moment. Then he rode away. His men followed one by one, engines fading into the distance like a storm retreating over the horizon. Silence. Then cheers. The Hells Angels erupted, fists raised, engines revved, the sound of men who'd forgotten what victory tasted like, remembering all at once. Wren stood beside Jesse's shovelhead. Shine. The engine still running, she couldn't believe it. They'd won, without losing a single person. They'd won. Stone stood motionless, watching the last serpent taillights disappear. Boomer approached. "Stone, you okay?" "No," Stone's voice was thick. "But I will be." He turned to face the club. His club. The men who'd followed him into hell on 17 bikes fixed by an 18-year-old girl. "Tonight we showed the world that the Hells Angels are not finished. We're not dying. We're not surrendering. Tonight we took back what's ours." The cheers shook the warehouse walls. Hands slapped Wren's back. Voices congratulated her. Faces she'd seen trying to kill her 2 days ago now treating her like family. But something was wrong. She could feel it. A cold prickle at the back of her neck. The instinct that 6 months on the street had sharpened to a razor's edge. She turned, scanning the darkness. There, movement near the far building, a figure emerging from the shadows. Someone who hadn't left with the others. Fang. He must have escaped during the chaos, slipped away from wherever they'd been holding him, and now he stood 30 feet away, a gun in his hand, pointed directly at Stone's back. Everything happened in fragments, broken pieces of a moment that would replay in Ren's mind for the rest of her life. Her voice screaming Stone's name, the sound tearing out of her throat like something alive. Stone turning, too slow, 62 years old, and the reflexes that had kept him alive for decades finally failing him in the moment that mattered most. Fang's finger tightening on the trigger, his face twisted with rage and grief and the desperate spite of a man who has nothing left except the ability to destroy. And Ren, moving without thinking, moving on pure instinct, the same instinct that had kept her alive under bridges and in alleyways and in all the cold, dark places where the forgotten learn that the only person who will save you is yourself. She threw herself between them. The gunshot was deafening, a sound that erased every other sound in the universe. Pain exploded in Ren's shoulder, white hot, blinding, pain that rewrote her understanding of what pain means. She hit the ground hard, gravel biting into her back, sky spinning above her, stars multiplying and blurring and dissolving into light. Voices everywhere, shouting, more gunshots. Through the haze she saw Boomer tackle Fang, saw fists flying, saw the gun skitter across the concrete. Then Stone's face appeared above her, pale with shock. Ren, Ren, I'm okay. She gasped it through teeth clenched against the fire in her shoulder. But she wasn't okay. Blood was soaking through Jesse's vest, spreading across the leather like a dark flower blooming in real time. Someone get a medic, now. Hands pressed against the wound. Ren cried out on them, stay with me, kid. Stay with me. You hear me? You don't die. Not tonight. Not after everything. You hear me? You stay. Ren tried to respond, tried to tell him she was fine, tried to tell him the bikes were done and the club was safe, and Jesse's shovelhead was still running because she could hear it. She could hear its engine ticking in the cold night air, like a heartbeat waiting for its rider to come back. But darkness was creeping in at the edges of her vision, closing like curtains at the end of a show. The last thing she saw before it took her was Stone's face, that hard, weathered, ancient face, and the tears streaming down his cheeks, tears that had waited 3 years to fall and finally found a reason. Beeping, steady, rhythmic, the sound of a machine keeping count of a life that almost ended. Ren opened her eyes, white ceiling, white, fluorescent lights humming overhead like tired insects, the sharp smell of disinfectant that belongs to only one place, hospital. A room where people wake up and realize they're either lucky or cursed, and sometimes both at the same time. She tried to move and gasped. Her shoulder screamed in a language she didn't know pain could speak. Deep, grinding, bone-deep hurt that radiated outward through every nerve like electricity through wet wire. Easy. Mama Lou's voice, warm and steady as an anchor chain. She appeared beside the bed, her face lined with exhaustion and worry and something else. Something that looked like relief so deep it bordered on collapse. Don't move. The bullet went straight through, but you lost a lot of blood. Doctors say you're lucky it missed the artery by a quarter inch. How long? 2 days. You've been out for 2 days. 2 days. Ren's mind struggled to catch up. Like an engine turning over in cold weather, firing on some cylinders, but not all. The fight. The ride, the warehouse, Fang's gun. The sound of the shot that erased everything. Did we win? We won. Rex left. The serpents are gone. Mama Lou smiled, the first real smile Ren had ever seen on that carefully controlled face. You saved Stone's life, Ren. Threw yourself in front of that bullet like your own life didn't matter. It was something. Hurt like hell. Mama Lou almost laughed. The sound was small and fragile like glass that knows it's thin. Stone hasn't left your side. Made the doctors let him stay even when visiting hours were over. Threatened to tear the building apart brick by brick if they kicked him out. Sounds like him? Mama Lou's expression grew serious, the smile folding back into something deeper. What you did, Ren, Nobody expected that. You'd known us for 2 days. 2 days. Most people wouldn't cross the street for a stranger. You took a bullet. You're not strangers. Not anymore. Her eyes glistened. No, I suppose we're not. The door opened. Stone walked in carrying 2 paper cups of coffee. He moved like a man who hadn't slept in 2 days because he was exactly that. Dark circles under those pale eyes. Stubble that had grown past fashionable into desperate. His vest wrinkled in ways that said he'd been sleeping in a hospital chair and not well. He stopped when he saw Ren's eyes open. You're awake, apparently. Stone set the coffee down on the table beside a vase of flowers that someone had brought. For a long moment, he just stood there, looking at her with an expression she couldn't read. A tangle of emotions so complex and contradictory that no single word in any language could hold them all. Then he spoke. You're an idiot. Excuse me. You heard me. You're an idiot. Jumping in front of a bullet. Who does that? What were you thinking? I was thinking you were about to die. So you decided to die instead. Seemed like the right call at the time. Stone stared at her, his jaw working. Those ice blue eyes blinking too fast. And then his face crumpled. This massive man, this feared biker president, this legend of the Nevada underground who had buried his son and fought a war and survived 30 years in a world designed to kill him. He broke, not the way walls break, not sudden and dramatic, the way mountains break, slowly, under pressure that's been building for years, cracks spreading through stone until the whole thing shifts and nothing is where it used to be. 3 years. His voice was barely a whisper. 3 years I've been dead inside. When Jesse died, I died with him. I stopped caring about the club, about my wife, about my own life, just going through the motions, getting up, sitting down, drinking until the memories blurred enough to let me sleep. Stone. Then you showed up, some homeless kid who climbed my fence and told me she could fix the unfixable. And I thought, this kid's going to die. She doesn't know what she's getting into. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, the knuckles still bruised from hitting Fang. But I let you try anyway, because I saw something in you. What? The same thing I saw in Jesse, that fire, that refusal to quit no matter what the world throws at you, the stubbornness that borders on insanity and crosses over into something that looks a lot like grace. Stone leaned forward, his voice steadied. Not healed, just steadied, like a man who's decided to stop drowning and start swimming even though the shore is nowhere in sight. You brought my son's bike back to life. You reminded this club what it used to be. And then you took a bullet for me. A bullet that should have killed you, but it didn't. No, it didn't. The doctors say you'll be fine. Full recovery in a few months. Shoulder might be stiff, but you'll ride again. Good. I've got bikes to fix, Stone laughed. A real laugh, the third one she'd heard from him, and each one had been warmer than the last. Like a frozen river thawing one day at a time. Yeah, you do. He reached into his jacket. I've been carrying this around for 2 days, waiting for you to wake up. He pulled out a leather patch. Ren stared at it. The full Hell's Angels patch, the death's head, the colors, black and white and red. The most feared symbol in the motorcycle world offered to an 18-year-old girl who'd been sleeping under a bridge 3 days ago. You earned this. The club voted unanimously. First time in 30 years that's happened. I've only been here 3 days. Doesn't matter. What you did in those 3 days matters more than what most people do in a lifetime. Stone held out the patch. His hand was steady. His eyes were not. You're one of us now, Ren, if you want to be. Ren's hands were shaking as she took it. The leather was soft, worn smooth by years of being stitched and restitched onto vests that belonged to men and women who'd chosen this life knowing what it cost. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Ren looked at the patch, at the colors she'd seen from outside the fence, back when she was just a hungry girl with grease under her nails, and nothing in the world except the knowledge her father had left her and the stubborn refusal to die. Yes, Stone smiled. Welcome to the family. The door burst open. Copper rushed in, first, face still bruised from Fang's beating, but grinning so wide it must have hurt. Behind him came Boomer and 3 other bikers, filling the room with leather and noise and the smell of engine oil that clings to everything a biker touches. She's awake. I told you she'd make it. Suddenly, the hospital room was a clubhouse. Hands shaking hers. Voices congratulating her. Someone produced a flask that got hidden behind a pillow when a nurse appeared in the doorway, with an expression that suggested she'd seen this kind of thing before and had long since stopped being surprised. Wren looked around at these faces. These men who'd wanted to kill her 72 hours ago. These outlaws and criminals and broken souls who had somehow become her family. She thought about her father, about the garage where she'd learned to listen to engines, about the lessons that had saved her life in ways he never could have imagined when he was teaching them. She thought about Jesse, about the bike that carried his memory, about the vest she still wore now stained with her own blood, where the bullet had torn through leather and skin, and everything she thought she knew about herself. She thought about all the nights under bridges, the hunger, the cold, the loneliness that had nearly destroyed her. And she realized something that changed everything. She wasn't homeless anymore. Not because she had a building to sleep in, because she had people who would die for her, people she would die for. That's what home really meant. Not walls and a roof, people, family. The ones who choose you when the world decides you're not worth choosing. You okay? Boomer's voice broke through her thoughts. You're crying. Wren touched her face. Wet, yeah. She said it and meant it for the first time in 6 months. I'm okay. I'm really okay. 3 weeks later, Wren stood in the garage, her garage now. Stone had officially put her in charge of maintaining all the club's bikes. A real job, real responsibility, real purpose. The three things she'd spent 6 months searching for and found in the last place anyone would look. Her shoulder was still stiff. The doctors were amazed at her recovery, said she must have something to live for. They had no idea how right they were. Wren, she turned. Stone stood in the doorway, afternoon sun behind him turning his silhouette into something that looked carved from the desert itself. Got a minute for you always. They walked outside together. The compound was busy, bikers coming and going, prospects washing bikes, the constant rumble of engines being tested and tuned. Life. The club was alive again. You could feel it in the air, the way you can feel a season changing before the calendar says it should. 3 weeks later became 6 weeks later, and the world kept turning and the club kept healing, and Wren kept fixing everything that needed fixing. Bikes, people, didn't matter. It was all the same work. Then the black SUVs arrived, 3 of them, pulling through the compound gates with the quiet authority of machines that don't need to announce themselves. Men in suits climbed out. Federal agents. Wren could spot them a mile away. She'd learned to recognize that look during her months on the street. The pressed collars, the polished shoes, the eyes that cataloged everything and gave nothing back. Boomer appeared beside her, gun already in his waistband. Feds. This ain't good. What do they want? Nothing good. Go find Stone. Wren ran, found him in the clubhouse, already aware. Mama Lou beside him, her face tight with worry. They're asking for you, I know. Stone stood slowly, straightened his vest, became the president again. Stay here, both of you. Stone, I said stay. He walked out alone. Wren and Mama Lou watched through the window. Words were exchanged. Stone's body language shifted from guarded to tense to something Wren had never seen before. Fear. Stone was afraid. The conversation lasted 10 minutes. Then the agents climbed back into their SUVs and drove away. Stone stood motionless in the yard. When he turned around, his face was gray. Rex Malone is dead. Someone killed him 2 nights ago. The feds think we did it. The news spread through the club like fire through dry brush. Within an hour, every member had gathered in the main room. The atmosphere was a living thing. Electric, dangerous, confused. We didn't do this, Boomer said it firmly. We've been laying low since the battle. Nobody's made any moves. The feds don't care what we did or didn't do, Stone replied. They've got witnesses, anonymous tips, multiple sources saying they saw hellsangels colors near Rex's compound the night he died. They've got motive. Everyone knows about our war. They've got a body, and they've got a warrant to search this compound tomorrow morning. Wren's mind was racing, not in circles, in straight lines, the way an engine works, cause and effect, input and output. Problem and solution. Someone's setting us up. Every head turned toward her. Think about it. Rex threatened us, said this wasn't over. Then he ends up dead and suddenly evidence points at us, anonymous tips from multiple sources. That's not coincidence. That's coordinated. Someone wanted Rex dead and they wanted us to take the fall. Two birds, one stone. The kid's got a point. Copper said, Rex had enemies everywhere. Could have been any of them. Doesn't matter who actually did it, Stone said grimly. What matters is the feds are coming tomorrow. If they find anything, we're done. Ren stepped forward. I know who did this, or at least I know who can prove we didn't. Who, Fang? The name landed in the room like a grenade with the pin pulled. He escaped during the battle. We never found him. What if he's been watching? What if he saw who really killed Rex? Better yet, what if he has proof? Why would Fang have proof? Because Fang was Rex's spy for years. He knew everything about the serpents. Their people, their enemies, their internal politics. If Rex's own men turned on him, Fang would know. And a man like Fang always keeps insurance. Stone was quiet for a long moment. The clock on the wall ticked. Every tick a second closer to the raid that would destroy them. Even if you're right, how do we find him? Give me tonight. Me and Copper. We'll find him. That's dangerous. Fang tried to kill me. He's probably armed, probably desperate. Dangerous is a federal raid that puts every person in this room behind bars. Dangerous is losing the club. Losing each other. That's dangerous. Fang is just a man with a gun and I've already survived one of those. Stone stared at her. Then he looked at Mama Lou. She nodded once, almost imperceptibly, but Stone saw it. He always saw it. Go. Take Copper. Be careful and be back before dawn. Ren and Copper rode into the Reno night. Two bikes on a dark highway, the desert stretching out on both sides like a sleeping giant that could wake at any moment. Ren had one lead. During her weeks fixing bikes, she'd overheard older members talking about Fang's habits, his favorite bars, his old girlfriends, the places he used to disappear to when things got hot. One name kept coming up, Jolene, an ex who ran a dive bar on the outskirts of Reno. The bar was exactly what Ren expected, neon signs buzzing like dying insects, cracked windows, a parking lot full of trucks and bad decisions. The kind of place where asking the wrong question got you a broken jaw and asking the right one got you killed. They parked out of sight, walked in separately, Ren first, Copper 2 minutes later. The bartender was a woman in her 50s with hard eyes and hands that had seen their share of bar fights. Bleached hair pulled back in a ponytail that had given up trying to look intentional. Ren ordered a beer and sat at the counter. Let the noise of the bar settle around her like camouflage. Looking for someone. She said it quietly. Everyone's looking for someone. Guy named Fang, heard he used to come around here. The woman's expression didn't change, but her hands stopped moving. Just for a second. Just long enough. Don't know anyone by that name? You're Jolene, right? Now her expression changed. Suspicion layered over fear, layered over caution, earned from years of knowing dangerous men. Who's asking? Someone who wants to help him. The feds are after the Hell's Angels. They think we killed Rex Malone, but we didn't. And I think Fang knows who did. Jolene studied her for a long time. The jukebox played something country and sad. A man at the end of the bar laughed too loud at something that probably wasn't funny. You're the girl, the one who fixed the bikes. Word travels in this world. Always does. Jolene leaned closer, her voice dropping to a level that disappeared beneath the bar noise like a stone sinking in muddy water. Fang was here 2 nights ago, scared out of his mind, said something bad was going down and he needed to disappear. Where'd he go? Didn't say. But he left with a woman, blonde, young, drove a red pickup. You know her, never seen her before. But Fang called her something. Jolene frowned. Brenda, that was it. Brenda. Ren filed the name away, thanked Jolene with a nod and headed for the door. Jolene's voice caught her. Fang's not the same as he used to be. Something broke in him after what happened. He's dangerous, unpredictable. Watch yourself. I always do. Next stop, a tattoo parlor run by a retired biker named Shade. He'd been out of the game for years, but still kept his ear pressed to the ground, the way old soldiers keep their boots polished, just in case. Shade was closing up when they arrived. He recognized Copper first, then looked at Ren with eyes that held the accumulated wisdom of 50 years in a world that punished the stupid and rewarded the careful. Ren Cole, heard about you, the girl who brought Stone's club back from the dead. Need your help, Shade? With what? Looking for a woman, Brenda, blonde, drives a red pickup, might be connected to Fang. Shade's expression flickered. Something moved behind those old eyes. Why are you looking for her? Because Fang's got evidence that can clear the Hell's Angels. And I think Brenda knows where he is. Shade was quiet for a long time. The tattoo gun sat on his counter like a sleeping weapon. Brenda Hale used to run with the Iron Serpents before Rex kicked her out for skimming money. Word is she had a thing for Fang back in the day. Real intense. The kind of love that burns everything it touches. Where can I find her? She's got a cabin up by Lake Tahoe. Off the grid. Hard to find if you don't know where to look. Can you tell us? Aid hesitated. This is dangerous, kid. Fang's got nothing left to lose. Men like that are capable of anything. I know, but if I don't find him, the feds are going to destroy the only family I've got. Shade studied her face. Whatever he saw there made him reach for a pen and paper. I'll draw you a map. But you didn't get it from me. Never heard of you. Good luck, kid. You're going to need it. The ride to Lake Tahoe took 3 hours. Wren's shoulder ached from the cold mountain air. Her hands were numb on the handlebars. The road climbed through pine forests that blocked the moonlight and turned the world into a tunnel of shadow and engine noise. Copper rode beside her, steady, reliable. The friend she'd found in the last place she'd expected to find anything. They found the cabin tucked between tall pines just as Shade described. Small. One story. A red pickup parked outside like a flag marking the position of everything Wren needed to save her family. She killed her engine a quarter-mile out. Copper did the same. We walk from here. Copper nodded, his face pale in the moonlight, but his jaw was set. What's the plan? Get Fang to talk, get the evidence, get out. And if he won't talk, then I convince him. They crept through the trees. The cabin was quiet. One light on inside, movement behind curtained windows. Wren approached the front door alone. Knocked twice. Silence. Then footsteps. Careful. Measured. The footsteps of someone who knows that knocking at midnight means trouble. The door cracked open. A woman's face, blonde hair, hard eyes that had seen too many bad nights. Brenda Hale. Who are you? Someone looking for Fang? The door started to close. Wren jammed her boot in the gap. I'm not here to hurt him. I'm here to help. Help, Brenda laughed. It was bitter as black coffee. Nobody helps Fang, not anymore. The Hells Angels are being framed for Rex Malone's murder. The feds are raiding us tomorrow morning. If I don't find out who really killed Rex, innocent people are going to prison. Something shifted in Brenda's expression. A crack in the armor. Innocent Hells Angels, believe it or not. We didn't kill Rex, and I think Fang knows who did. What makes you think that? Because Fang's been running scared since the night Rex died. If he was the killer, he'd be long gone by now. Instead, he's hiding, which means he saw something, or knows something, something that scares him more than we do. Brenda stared at her, then she stepped back. Come in. The cabin was sparse. Couch, table, bed in the corner. And Fang sitting in a chair near the back wall with a gun pointed at Wren's chest. He looked different, smaller. The enforcer swagger was gone, replaced by something hunted, hollowed out. His eyes darted around the room the way an animal's eyes move when it knows the cage is closing. You've got a lot of nerve, kid. So I've been told. Give me one reason I shouldn't kill you right now. Because I'm the only chance you've got. Fang laughed, hollow, the ghost of a laugh that used to have teeth. Chance at what? I'm already dead. Rex's boys are hunting me. The feds are looking for anyone connected to his murder. And now you show up. I'm offering a deal. You tell me who killed Rex. Give me proof. I clear the club and we help you disappear. New identity. New life. Somewhere nobody will ever find you. Fang's gun wavered. How do I know you can deliver that? You don't. But what's your alternative? Keep running until someone catches you. Wait for Rex's people to find this cabin. Silence. Heavy. Cold. Pressing down on everything. Brenda moved to Fang's side, touched his arm. The gesture was gentle, out of place in this room full of guns and desperation and the smell of fear that clings to people who've been running too long. Tell her, Mike, this is your only way out. You know it. Mike. Fang's real name was Mike. The small human fact made the monster seem suddenly ordinary. Just a scared man sitting in a cabin with a gun he didn't really want to use. Fang lowered the gun slowly, set it on the table beside him. I didn't kill Rex, but I know who did. Who his own men. His inner circle turned on him. 3 of them. Garth, Nolan, Birch. They'd been planning it for months. Why? Because Rex was losing it. After we beat him at the compound, he went crazy. Started making threats. Talking about going to war with every club in Nevada. Burning everything. Scorched earth. His lieutenants tried to calm him down, but he wouldn't listen. So they handled it themselves, and they framed the Hells Angels. 2 birds, 1 stone. Get rid of Rex and destroy the club that embarrassed them. Ren's mind assembled the pieces. Clean, logical, the mechanics of betrayal working exactly the way engines work. Cause and effect. I need proof. Names aren't enough. Fang reached into his jacket. Ren tensed. But he didn't pull a gun. He pulled a phone. I was there that night, at Rex's compound. I saw the whole thing through a window. 3 men holding down the man who used to sign my checks. And I recorded it. He held up the phone. The screen glowed in the dim cabin. Video footage. Dark. Grainy. But clear enough. 3 men. A struggle. The ending that Rex Malone never saw coming from the people he trusted most. Ren stared at the screen. This was it. This was what she needed. Give me the phone. And then what, you take the evidence, clear your club, and leave me to rot. I told you. We'll help you disappear. Words. I need guarantees. You'll have to trust me. Trust. Fang's voice cracked on the word like it was made of glass. I don't trust anyone. Then trust this. Ren stepped closer. She didn't flinch. Didn't look away. I jumped in front of a bullet for Stone. I nearly died for a man I'd known for 2 days. When I say I'll help you, I mean it. That's who I am. Brenda squeezed Fang's arm. Give her the phone, Mike. It's time to stop running. Long silence. The pines outside creaked in the wind. An owl called from somewhere in the darkness. The sound of a world that kept turning, whether they made the right choice or not. Fang handed over the phone. If you screw me over, I won't. They rode back through the mountain darkness. 4 people now. Ren, Copper, Fang on a borrowed bike, Brenda in her red pickup following behind. Strange allies for a strange night. While they rode 200 miles south, Mama Lou was not sleeping. She was not waiting by the window wringing her hands. She was not praying to a god she'd stopped trusting 3 years ago. Mama Lou was working. The moment Ren left, Mama Lou had picked up the phone. Called Shade. Called 3 other people whose names didn't matter, but whose connections did. Within an hour, she had a copy of Fang's video. Shade had made one before Ren ever arrived at the cabin. Insurance. A backup plan that old bikers keep the way old soldiers keep loaded guns in their nightstands. Mama Lou reviewed the footage, confirmed it was real. Then she did something that would save the Hells Angels before Ren ever made it back to the compound. She sent it to the FBI. Not through a lawyer, not through channels. She called the direct line of the agent who delivered the warrant. Woke him at 4 in the morning. Told him to check his email. Told him there was video evidence that Rex Malone was killed by his own men and that the Hells Angels had nothing to do with it. Then she hung up and made coffee. Dawn was breaking when Ren saw the compound, and her heart stopped. Black SUVs lined up at the gates, agents everywhere, her brothers standing in a line, hands visible, faces grim. The raid had started. They were too late. Then she saw something that changed everything. Stone was smiling. Ren dismounted and pushed through the crowd of agents. What's happening? Stone turned to her. Calm, steady, that granite face almost amused. Ah, Ren, good timing. I was just about to explain to these gentlemen that they've made a terrible mistake. The lead agent approached. Ren Cole, yes. We've received new evidence in the Rex Malone case. Video footage implicating 3 members of the Iron Serpents in his murder. The agent paused. His expression gave nothing away, but his voice carried something that might have been embarrassment. It appears the Hells Angels were framed, were canceling the warrant. The agents retreated to their vehicles. One by one, the SUVs pulled away. The gate closed behind them. Silence. Then the compound exploded with sound. Cheers, shouts, the thunder of fists on tables and boots on gravel, and men who'd just been pulled back from the edge of an abyss, celebrating the fact that the ground was still beneath their feet. Ren found Mama Lou standing quietly at the edge of the crowd. How Shade called me after you left his place. Told me what you were planning. I figured you might need insurance. Mama Lou smiled. The smile of a woman who'd been solving problems while other people were still figuring out what the problems were. Never hurts to have a backup plan. You're incredible, I know. She hugged Ren, carefully, mindful of the shoulder. You did good, Ren. Jesse would be proud. 1 week later, a man appeared at the compound gates. Ren was in the garage when Copper came to tell her. His face was unusually serious, the freckles standing out against skin that had gone pale. You've got a visitor. Says his name is Wyatt Cole. Says he's your brother. Ren's wrench clattered to the concrete floor. The sound echoed in the suddenly silent garage. That's impossible. I don't have a brother. Well, he's got your eyes and your jawline, and he's been arguing with Boomer for 10 minutes. Ren walked outside. A man stood at the gates, mid-20s, sandy hair that fell across his forehead the way Ren's father's hair used to fall, same blue eyes, same jaw, the same face she saw when she looked in the mirror except older and male, and carrying the weight of questions that had never been answered. Who are you, Wyatt Cole? Your half-brother. Dad had another family before he met your mom. He left us when I was 3. I've been looking for any connection to him for years. And then I found you, how the homeless girl who saved the hellsangels. It made the local news, enough for me to track down once I started looking. Wyatt's voice cracked slightly. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted to meet you, to know something about the father I never got to have. Ren stood there. The desert wind pushed between them. Her mind was doing what it always did, working through the problem, checking for traps, looking for the angle. But beneath the caution was something else, something that looked a lot like the feeling she'd had the first time Stone smiled at her. The possibility of connection in a world that had taught her to expect abandonment. Stone pulled her aside that afternoon. You trust this guy? He's my brother. He's a stranger who showed up out of nowhere. The timing is suspicious, Ren. You get named as my successor, and suddenly a long-lost brother appears. Wyatt's not a spy, Stone. How do you know? Because I looked in his eyes. I saw our father in them. I saw the same pain I've carried for years. The same questions with no answers. Stone stared at her. Pain can be faked, not this kind. Long silence. Then Stone nodded. Trust, but verify. That's how you survive in this world. Keep your eyes open. Over the next few days, Ren and Wyatt pieced together the puzzle of Thomas Cole. 2 children from 2 families, both abandoned in different ways. Their father had been running from debt when he left Wyatt's mother. Bad investments, wrong decisions. He'd started over with a new name, a new life, determined to be better. And he had been, for 12 years, until cancer took him. He wasn't a villain. Wyatt said one evening as they sat in the garage surrounded by bikes and the smell of oil. He was just a man who made mistakes and spent the rest of his life trying to make up for them. That's all any of us can do, Ren said it quietly. Fix what's broken. Keep moving forward. Then the phone call came. Stone's face when he hung up told Ren everything before he said a word. Wyatt's gone. Somebody took him. Ren's world tilted. What Decker Malone? Rex's son. He's got Wyatt. Demanding you resign from the club publicly. Walk away and never come back. Or Wyatt dies. Ren's vision went red, then white, then clear. Crystal clear. The way everything becomes clear when you've lost too much already and the universe decides to test you one more time. She didn't panic. She didn't scream. She didn't break. She planned. Boomer. 4 men. Cover the exits. Copper, you're with me. Stone, I need the factory address. Stone looked at her. That look he'd given her the first night when she'd told him she could fix his shovelhead. Half admiration, half disbelief. You're sure about this? That's my brother. My blood. The only family I've got left besides all of you. I'm getting him back. Then take 8 men. Boomer's team on the perimeter. You and Copper through the front. I'll have 2 more covering the back. Not you, I'll be where I need to be. The abandoned factory sat on the edge of Reno like a rotting tooth in a dying mouth. Concrete and corrugated metal and the smell of rust and forgotten industry. Ren killed her engine 200 yards out. The others followed. 8 men, 8 bikes, and 1 girl who'd already survived more in 3 months than most people face in a lifetime. Boomer, take your team around back. Cover every exit. Nobody leaves unless I say so. Boomer nodded, his face grim beneath the moonlight. You got it, boss. Boss. She was the boss now. The girl who'd been sleeping under bridges was giving orders to men twice her age and 3 times her size, and not one of them questioned it. Copper. With me. They moved through the shadows. 2 guards at the main entrance. Ren and Copper took them down without a sound. Skills she'd learned on the street. Skills she wished she'd never needed. Skills she was grateful for now. Inside. A maze of corridors and rusted machinery. The factory floor was vast and dark and full of echoes. Every footstep a potential betrayal. They found the stairs. Descended. The basement was cold and damp and smelled like concrete and fear. A single door. Light seeping through the cracks. Ren pushed it open. Wyatt was there, tied to a chair, face bruised, one eye swollen shut, but alive, looking at her with the same blue eyes their father had given them both. Ren, I'm here. I'm getting you out. She cut the ropes, helped him stand. Copper caught him when his legs buckled. They started back up the stairs. Decker Malone was waiting at the top. Young, mid-20s, dark hair and the same cold smile his father used to wear. Behind him, a dozen armed men arranged in a semicircle like teeth in a jaw that was about to close. Predictable. Decker smiled. Just like I expected. Ren looked at him. 18 years old, 120 pounds, bandaged shoulder, bruised hands. Standing at the bottom of a staircase looking up at 12 armed men and a dead man's son who wanted revenge. You're right, she said it calmly. I am predictable. She pointed behind him. Decker turned. Boomer. 6 Hell's Angels, armed, behind the serpents, weapons raised. The ambush that Decker thought he was springing had been sprung on him. You think we'd come with just 2? Ren climbing the stairs, each step deliberate, each step a statement. We learned it from your father's mistakes. The serpents were caught, trapped between Ren's team and Boomer's. Move in any direction and they died. Decker's face twisted. Kill me and the serpents will hunt you forever. Maybe. But you won't be around to see it. Ren stepped close to him, close enough to see the fear behind the bravado, close enough to see the boy behind the mask. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to let us walk out of here. Then you're going to take your people and leave Nevada for good. Or what? Or we end this tonight. You don't have the guts. Ren grabbed Decker by the collar. Her bandaged hand twisted the fabric until the leather creaked. I was homeless for 6 months. I climbed a fence into the most dangerous biker compound in Nevada and fixed 17 bikes in 48 hours. I took a bullet for a man I'd known for 2 days. And I just walked into your stronghold to rescue my brother. She leaned close. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Test me. See what happens. Decker stared into her eyes. Whatever he saw there made the blood drain from his face. The same way his father's face had drained when Stone confronted him in the warehouse. Like father, like son. Both of them learning the same lesson. Some people cannot be broken. Fine, take your brother. Take everything. Decker stepped aside. His men lowered their weapons. But this isn't over. Yeah. Ren said it over her shoulder as she walked Wyatt toward the exit. I've heard that before. 2 weeks later, the ceremony took place. Every Hell's Angel in Nevada gathered at the compound. Representatives from chapters in California and Arizona. The biggest gathering the club had seen in a decade. Ren stood at the center, Jesse's vest on her shoulders, the full president's patch newly stitched beside the death's head. Stone stood next to her, ready to pass the gavel he'd held for 30 years. The fire pit blazed, sparks rising into the Nevada sky like small prayers headed for the stars. 30 years ago, I became president of this club, Stone's voice carried across the crowd. I was young, stupid, thought I knew everything. I made mistakes, lost brothers, lost my son, almost lost everything. He looked at Ren. Then a homeless kid climbed my fence, asked me to keep her, and changed everything. Stone held out the gavel. Ren Cole, do you accept the responsibility of leading the Hells Angels Nevada chapter? Do you swear to protect your brothers, honor our traditions, and uphold the name we built? Ren's voice was steady, the steadiest it had ever been. I do. Then by the power vested in me, I name you president of the Hells Angels Nevada chapter. Ren took the gavel. The crowd erupted. Cheers that shook the compound walls and echoed across the desert and probably startled coyotes for miles. Wren raised her hand. Silence fell. 3 months ago, I was sleeping under a bridge. I had nothing, no family, no future, no hope. She looked around at the faces before her, illuminated by firelight, old faces and young faces, scarred faces and tattooed faces, the faces of people who had chosen each other when the world refused to choose them. Then I found you, or maybe you found me. Either way, my life changed forever that night. Her voice strengthened, not louder, stronger. The way steel gets stronger when you heat it and hammer it and cool it down. I'm not going to promise everything will be perfect. We'll face challenges, enemies, people who want to destroy what we built. But I promise you this, as long as I'm standing, I will fight for this club. I will fight for every single one of you. Because you're not just my brothers. She paused. You're my family. The cheers were deafening. Mama Lou was crying and not bothering to hide it. Boomer was pounding his chest with a fist that had broken more bones than he could count. Copper was screaming Wren's name. Wyatt stood at the edge of the crowd. Face still bruised, eyes shining. Wren caught his gaze. Wyatt nodded. Brothers by blood, family by choice. Later, long after the party died down, Wren sat alone on Jesse's shovelhead. The fire pit had burned to embers. Most of the brothers had gone to bed. The desert was quiet the way only deserts can be quiet. Total. Absolute. Silence so complete it made you feel like the last person on earth. Wren looked up at the stars. Millions of them. Scattered across the Nevada sky like someone had spilled a jar of light across black velvet. I hope you're watching, Dad. She whispered it into the darkness. I hope you can see what your lessons did. What they made possible. A hand touched her shoulder. Mama Lou, Jesse's watching too. I can feel it. Yeah, I think he is. Mama Lou sat beside her on the old stool she always carried from place to place like a portable throne. You know what he'd say if he were here? What he'd say about damn time someone brought this club back to life. Mama Lou laughed softly, and then he'd challenge you to a race. Wren smiled. I wish I'd known him. You do know him. Through his bike, through his legacy, through everything he left behind. And now you're carrying that forward. Every engine you fix, every person you save, every time this club comes together. Jesse's right there. Mama Lou stood, squeezed Wren's hand. Come on, Madam President. Your club is waiting. Wren climbed off the bike, walked back toward the embers, toward the last few brothers still sitting around the dying fire with bottles in their hands and something in their eyes that hadn't been there 3 months ago. Hope. Boomer raised his bottle when he saw her. To Wren Cole, the kid who fixed the unfixable. To Wren, stone caught her eye across the fading flames. The old man nodded once, that single nod that said everything words couldn't. Wren nodded back. Then she raised her own bottle. To the Hell's Angels, past, present, and future. May we ride forever. Forever. The word echoed into the night, carried by the wind across the desert floor. Past the fence she'd climbed 3 months ago. Past the highway where Jesse Garrett had taken his last ride. Past the bridges where she'd slept, in the streets where she'd starved, in all the cold, dark places where she'd learned that giving up was the only unforgivable sin. Wren looked around at the faces in the firelight. At Copper, her best friend. At Boomer, who'd gone from wanting to kill her to willing to die for her. At Mama Lou, the mother she'd found when she thought she'd never have one again. At Wyatt, her brother by blood. At Stone, her father by choice. 3 months ago, Wren Cole had been homeless. Alone. Forgotten. Invisible. A girl sleeping under bridges with nothing but a dead man's lessons and the stubborn refusal to quit. Now she was president of the Hell's Angels. Not because of luck. Not because of fate. Because she'd refused to give up. Because she'd climbed a fence and asked for a chance and bled for it. Because she'd proven that family isn't about blood. It's about the people who choose you, the ones who fight for you, the ones who ride beside you into the dark without knowing what's on the other side and not caring. Because they're with you, Wren Cole had found her family, and she would protect them until her last breath. The fire crackled. Somewhere in the compound, an engine turned over and roared to life. The sound of the Hell's Angels. Alive, strong, ready for whatever came next. Wren smiled. She was home.